The goddamn Atlanta Braves, man. They did it again. The Braves take Antoine Richardson and Jeremy Hefner and make them their first base and pitching coach, respectively. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown. At Jake Brown Live is where you can follow me. Subscribe to my YouTube right now. Please go do that. And follow me on X, on Instagram, and on TikTok at Jake Brown Live. Smash a thumbs up on this video, please. Hit that subscribe button below. Become a Mets Daily Insider, just $5 a month, cheaper than a cup of coffee. Appreciate your support, everyone, as we will get into free agency and everything. But we have to start with the news of the day. You know, they want me to start doing more recording in the morning. The issue when I record in the morning is the afternoon is when all the news happens. So yesterday's show goes out, and within 30 minutes of the show being released, we hear the breaking news that the Braves have hired Antoine Richardson to be their first base coach and Jeremy Hefner to be their pitching coach. Now, Hefner, the Mets had let go. What can you do? It's more so frustrating that it goes to the division rival Braves, because we've seen players go from the Mets to the Braves and they sucked with the Mets and somehow they're good with the Braves, just like Travis d'Arnaud recently. So that's the frustrating part, is that they have some intel maybe on Mets pitching, maybe on Mets base running that they can take with them. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I know a lot of us in Mets Twitter was making a massive deal of this. It's not the biggest deal, but it's frustrating. And the frustrating element of this part of this happening is this. Antoine Richardson. Apparently, they did not agree on his value, according to Anthony DiComo. Regarding Antoine Richardson's departure, this wasn't about his lack of desire to remain in New York. Richardson said, during the negotiation process, we weren't fully aligned on how we viewed my value. I have great respect for their process and the conversations we had. This narrative of me not wanting to be a Met, that's kind of bogus. Once I was allowed to speak with other teams, I remained open to a return to Queens until the end, while also focusing on finding an opportunity that was more in line with what I was looking for. Now, the other element of this is that when he came back to the Mets, according to Mike Puma, he wanted a pension. The Mets could not give the pension because they already had 4 coaches on their staff, and you have a max of 4 coaches that gets pensions. So Richardson circled back to the Mets in the end. The team couldn't offer the same deal as originally because of a restriction on the number of coaches allowed to receive a pension. The Mets had hired other coaches before Richardson circled back. And listen, pension is important for these guys. You know, coaches aren't making $20 million a year. Richardson was probably making, $1 million a year, maybe less. So I don't think he was making $4 or $5 million a year to be a first base coach. Maybe it was even less than $1 million. So I assume the value was different at the time, and he went to see other teams. And Richardson, you know, has experience with the Braves. So, you know, he made his major league debut for the Braves, and that's where he began. You know, he started with a minor league contract with the Braves. You know, had a cup of coffee playing with the Braves, his first hit with the Braves. So he had some experience there. So maybe, you know, it's where he began. And obviously Atlanta is a cool place to live. It's cheaper, a little bit cheaper than New York. So that maybe played a part. But the frustrating part of it is this, is could the Mets not really offer the same financial value as the Braves could? Now, the pension thing I understand at the back end of it. But in the beginning of this, the Mets couldn't give the guy what he was looking for. Something feels off in this, like I've talked about on here. And I don't know if it's the Kai Correa thing, or he didn't want to be with the Mets, or he didn't like this front office. He didn't like Mendoza. Something feels off, because why wouldn't the Mets hit that number? Was it that ridiculous of a number? I'm curious what the Braves, and these kind of numbers don't come out for the coaches, for the hitting coach, for the base coaches. They don't come out. So I'm fascinated to know what the hell went on here, but from what we read, it feels like David Stearns didn't give him the number he was looking for, and the Mets can't be penny pinching good coaches. Again, it's a first base coach. We're gonna move on from this. It's not the biggest deal. You know, the offseason's begun. We got to focus on that, but it is a topic of a discussion today. Is could they really not give Antoine Richardson what he wanted? Jeremy Hefner, that hurts. I think he did a good job developing pitching, but this year was a real disgrace for the pitching staff. That you can live with that, although you know the Braves pitching is now going to crush the Mets for years to come, it feels like. But Richardson, this whole saga just feels odd, is Why would Stearns penny pinch their best coach? You go out and fire almost the whole coaching staff, and the one guy you want to bring back, and you wouldn't give him a pay raise or what he was looking for. Something feels off about this. And Richardson had said it's bogus that he wouldn't want to be back. Maybe he did want to be back, and they just didn't meet the number he's looking for. And maybe it's the Mets effect, the Cohen effect. Maybe Richardson asked for a lot more money because he knows who the Mets owner is and how much money that they spend. That they have a $340 million payroll after the luxury tax. Maybe that's it. So maybe he looked, hey, Mets are spending. They could spend on me as well. So here's the number. I want $2.5 million, throwing a number out there. So very curious how this ends, but annoying as a Mets fan that it goes to the Braves. Would have liked anyone else but the Braves or Phillies, to be honest. Even if they went to the Marlins or Nationals, who cares? But the Braves, Phillies are the two teams your two better, maybe best coaches that you had go to, and there they go. So I'm fascinated about the financial numbers and why the Mets couldn't really meet that. But the pension thing, I understand. If you only get 4 per staff, the Mets already gave those out to the first 4 guys that they hired, and Snicker and Albert and everyone else. So fascinating story. And, another fascinating story was Bo Bichette and his return to the World Series and how good he hit in the World Series, playing on one leg, basically. Bo Bichette's a free agent. And, you got to start thinking about Jeff McNeil replacements because, as I've continued to say, it is a lock. The Mets trade Jeff McNeil, release him, whatever they have to do to get that guy off this roster. It's going to happen. And Bo Bichette's an option. Bo Bichette plays third, but you saw him play second in the World Series. So this is a guy that could play a few different positions. He plays short, I should say. He's a shortstop, can play third, but played second for the first time really since he was a DH. I'm just struggling today. It's been a long week. It has been a long week. It has been a long year. It has been a long life. Bo Bichette is a shortstop. Let me be clear. Bo Bichette is a shortstop. He can play third. He can play second in the minor leagues. He hasn't played those in the big leagues. The first time he played second in the big leagues was in the World Series. If the Mets were to bring Bo Bichette in, it would be to play second base. That means you probably go to Brett Beatty at third base. Here's the good thing about Bo Bichette and why I definitely would be talking to him. His age. Bo Bichette is in the prime of his career. He will be 28 years old in March. And a team that wants to get younger from someone like a Jeff McNeil who's 33, you got to consider Bo Bichette. And, the guy is a career 294 hitter, a 337 on base. He hits you 24, 25 homers a year. He'll drive in 80 or 90 guys. This year was 18 and 94, 311, and a 357 on base in 139 games. He had 44 doubles this year. So 62 extra base hits, 63 if you include the triple extra base hits out of his 181. The one thing, he does not walk a ton. He also does not steal a ton of bases. He stole 25 in 2021, but since then, 13, 5, 5, and 4. And you got to kind of throw last year out the window. He was hurt last year, and his numbers were just completely off. But every other year, this guy's been a consistent 300 hitter, a consistent 20 to 25 homer guy. So I'm definitely interested in Bo Bichette. Now, I think he's going to ask for a lot of money. When you're in the prime of your career like that, there is a chance this guy gets, 7 years, $200 million. But the good thing about Bichette, like I said, is his age. I mean, you're getting him in his prime. So I'm definitely talking to Bo Bichette and thinking about him being your second baseman moving forward. What do you guys think in the comments? Do you like Bo Bichette? Another name I'll talk about is Jorge Polanco. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Jorge Polanco, you remember him from the Mariners and how well he hit in the postseason. He's a free agent as well, a guy that can play around the infield. Very intrigued. If you could pull off both Jorge Polanco and Bo Bichette, and maybe Bo Bichette's your DH and Polanco's your second baseman, I'm intrigued if you can find a way to get both those guys. Jorge Polanco's 32, a little bit older, but good hitter. Good hitter. So Polanco is another name we'll be talking about all off season long. And, we'll really start talking tomorrow because, guys, it's here. At 5 p.m., it is Thursday, November 6th. At 5 p.m., free agents can officially start signing with teams. So it's here. So beginning tomorrow, we're going to analyze free agents. We're obviously going to talk trade rumors. But today's the day. Celebrate. Free agency is here. And as you're watching this, if it's after 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the free agent frenzy has begun. So I'm fascinated to see if we get anything today. Would love something tonight. Now, like I've said, baseball, that's not how it works. It's not like NBA where July 1st you see all these names signed. There probably won't be many today or any at all, but I would love a few. Would love the Mets to just sign someone tonight. But just be patient. Again, if they don't sign someone in a week, remember, baseball offseason goes until spring training. All right, let's get to your comments from Thursday's show. Smash that thumbs up, comment below. Here we go. Jake QR says, where is the $100 million to spend? I heard $250 in the books already and probably don't want to go over 300. Well, Jake, they're going to go over 300. In order to field the best team possible, they have to go over the 300 and deal with the luxury tax. You're not going to drop from 340 to 300 after a year where you had record attendance. Fans will revolt. Fans will have picket fences at Citi Field. You don't cut $40 million from your payroll after you just had 3 million fans and record numbers and made a ton from fans showing up. So there's absolutely no way they stay at 300. They're going to go over 300. From Rodolfo Irizarry, Mets, let's make move. We need to get the team rolling. Go Mets. Yep, we got time, guys. Marielle, 1973, Mets Daily Insider member, says, agree about Bader. Yeah, I'm saying no to Bader. I am saying no to Harrison Bader. Theo Isaac, let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Jared Robinson, Hefner, and Richardson are going back. It wouldn't shock me if they take the division next season. Yep, we just talked about that. Listen, I think the Braves still have a lot of work to do as well. I don't think them getting these two coaches means they're winning the division. But what it does mean is that they're going to have a little bit of an edge when it comes to strategy and coaching. They know what the Mets do. So now it'll be new Mets coaches, so it's going to be different signs. It's going to be different things going on. But still, it hurts. But after today, we get over it. You know, you lament it for a day, and then we move on. I know a lot of people making fun of Mets fans. Oh, it's this much crying over a first base coach. Listen, it's the off season. We need storylines. Like, people got to stop ripping other people for them getting mad over it. Let them do what they want. It's a free country. God, some people are just the absolute worst. From Radiant Valor, no Pete, no thank you on the Cubs pitcher. Qualifying offer should negate some of Diaz's power negotiation. Therefore, he can return back the numbers. I mean, you mentioned before, although I do see a scenario where there's an outside chance they actually leave. If so, I say we pivot to Suarez. Yeah, I mean, Suarez is the next name on the closer board. Again, I would not mind him. What I worry about with Suarez is he's older. He does give up the long ball. He's a little bit inconsistent. But I think that's the next name, so I would agree. PJB said, I said as of today. Cruiser, 3 hitters maybe. We got 4. I don't know what that says. 4 guys at 90 RBIs or better. Mr. Turbo says his bat was hot because our pitchers were not very simple. Yes, I assume you're talking about Bader. Fair, but he faced some of the Mets' best pitchers. He faced Peterson. He faced Minaya. So I think Bader just had a chip on his shoulder. From Shakamoto, Mets Daily Insider member says Bader's bats let us down when he was here. Then it burned us time and time again. I get why people are talking about him, but I agree he doesn't fit the 2026 Mets. Yes, we got to stop going back to the past. And, that, and I'll say it again with Alonso. I think Alonso is the past era of Mets losing. They need to move on to a new era with a new core. And Lindor or Soto are the core. Nimmo's here because you can't move that contract. But outside of that, it's got to be a new core, a new culture in this clubhouse. And I wouldn't go back to guys like Bader. He's not a bad player, but he's this bro kind of culture. Pete's boy, went to Florida together, pounded brews together. I don't want to go down that path again. And mind you, he's a 280 on base guy. We need better than that right now. But if you get much better, you just DFA. R.W. Davis, not sure what that mentioned too. Ethan K. Waddell is out of options, so he has to be in the big league roster. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Ethan, because it is a split contract, meaning he'll get a different number in the majors versus the minors, wherever he ends up. So I'd have to look more into that, but I do think if he starts in the minors, he can still be called up, but I don't know. Then he maybe had to pass through waivers. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but listen, if he's the last guy on the roster, I'll live with it. J.M. Valentine says, agree on Bader, not needed, but we can get offense elsewhere for less. Love that you keep it real. So many are asking to sign everyone. Last year was the same thing. We can't sign everyone. We're not the Dodgers. Players are not volunteering to take deferred money to play here. Yeah, appreciate it, J.M. Valentine. And that's the thing. I heard someone, I forget who, mention about sign all these guys and just defer the money. They're not deferring the money to live in New York. Do you understand the cost of living in New York? And I get LA is the same, but the Dodgers are going to win. And with winning comes appearances. It comes endorsements. It comes, bonuses from just winning and winning a championship, getting championship bonuses. You're not taking deferred money like the Dodgers are and their star players to come to New York. It's a very high cost of living. It doesn't work like that. And I get these guys are millionaires, but they're not going to sign for $20 million and $18 million of it's deferred to be in the running for a championship. You do that with the Dodgers because you're probably going to win the championship. So I get the deferred thing, but listen, it happened with Sean Manaea. He deferred money. I don't think a lot of players love deferring money. It takes a certain player. A guy like Ohtani can do that because he's making that an endorsement. So, the deferred thing with the Mets isn't going to happen. You got to be realistic. You're not going to sign everyone. We talk about everyone because it's Mets Daily. We need topics. So we're talking about things every day and analyzing players every day. But I'm not saying they're going to sign all these guys. There has to be a cap of who you're going to sign. You only have a certain amount of money. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. Smash that thumbs up. Scan that code. If you want to support me financially or whatever, you go to my X. You'll find how to do that. Instagram, TikTok. Appreciate your support, everyone. Mets Daily here all off season long. And free agency has now begun. If you're watching this 5 o'clock or later. So let's go, baby. Let's get a signing. Let's sign someone tonight so we have something to talk about tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow on a Friday on the first full day of Major League Baseball free agency right here on Mets Daily. Subscribe. Smash that thumbs up. Follow me. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.